Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 6 minutes after 4. Good afternoon. Welcome in. My name is Matt Murphy. This is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Pleased to be with you on a Monday, February the 9th. For those not listening in the first hour, thanks again to Brian Wilson for subbing in for me as I was absent on Friday. I appreciate you, Brian. All right, we're done at least for now on the matter of Super Bowl and halftime show. I just once again I have only a finite amount of emotional energy that I can expend on any given number of subjects, and it's become a tradition that people just get outraged. It feels like just to get outraged, and I understand that if it wasn't for you, it wasn't for you. I didn't watch any of it, so I don't feel well prepared.
Your name's Bennett, and you're not in it.
My name is Bennett, and I ain't in it. So you know what? I got 168 channels or whatever it is. I can watch a lot of different things. I can watch Andy Griffith 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and never see anything about any of this. So, in the meantime, I do want to spend some emotional energy on this subject. Teresa Broyles-Applin, who should be the former CEO of Nashville Electric Service, sadly she is not. She said during a board meeting earlier today, that the company's forthcoming, quote, independent after-action review for Winter Storm Fern, as they call it, which just came through. I hate the fact they're naming these storms. I think it's stupid, but whatever. Would include a resiliency assessment, which would lead to, quote, increased vegetation management to reduce outage risk. Speaking during the special board meeting earlier today, and I'm reading now from the Tennessee Star article, Broyles-Applin recommended an aggressive timeline for the after-action report, said that renewed focus on tree trimming and vegetation management would be the final of 4 pillars guiding the assessment. A study to determine the feasibility of burying more power lines in Nashville will also be a part of the 4th pillar. It's my understanding they did that in 1994 after that big ice storm, too. The other pillars of the after-action review will explore how NES can enhance emergency management leadership, improve internal coordination, review and refine our estimated time of restoration practices, including how the company develops the estimates given to the customers. Here's the deal. One thing that needs to happen is this person needs to be replaced. Another thing that needs to happen, in my opinion, is that we need to see Nashville Electric Service have representation for all of its customers in the region that it serves. To speak on these matters, we welcome back to the show Cameron Sexton, the Speaker of the House of the Tennessee General Assembly. He joins us on the Murphy Show hotline this afternoon. Cameron, good afternoon. Welcome in. I hope you're well.
Hey, I'm doing well. Thank you. I did hear Brian's voice on Friday. It took me a minute to recognize who it was. So
Wow, man. I appreciate it, Brian. I was down in the back on Friday, Cameron. I moved. I got too many books. If you want to buy books, I was moving, and, oh, man, these book boxes will kill you. Getting old. My grandpa always said getting old is hell, but it beats Plan B. So, anyway, this Monday morning board meeting, I don't know if you caught much of this. If so, what's your reaction to what they're saying?
Well, they're in spin control right now. Usually when you go through a crisis, you're trying to figure out how to right the ship, and you're trying to do everything you can to pacify the audience, whoever those are, who they're talking to, depending on what that looks like. Theirs, obviously, is to people who have electricity in Nashville, so everybody, and outside of Nashville. But look, it was, as I said, it was a disaster within a disaster. The leadership was ineffective. They were inept. And everybody out here knows that the leadership should be replaced. And the question is, should the board be replaced? I think it should be. I think it needs a wholesale change. I don't think we want to go through another natural disaster. I don't think people trust them on the direction they're going to go. But every time they talk, they're just trying to spin it to try to get people to quit paying attention or to check a box off. And that seems like what they're doing. Like they're donating $1 million to somewhere. They said they're going to trim trees more, but they had admitted for the last 3 to 4 years that they've only got 75% of what they were trying to do. Look, it's ineffective and it needs to change. And that's what happens sometimes when you have the government entity running public utilities.
So you have taken a pretty strong stand on this matter, especially when it comes to a lack of representation in the outlying communities, right? I mean, it's one thing that Davidson County elects their leadership, And if only Davidson County was impacted by a lack of leadership on the board or in the CEO's office at Nashville Electric Service, that would be one thing. But you've got Rutherford County and Williamson County and I think 4 other counties that are impacted by this. And what can we do? What can you do, I guess I should say pointedly, as a General Assembly potentially to give some of those folks a little more say in how this system is run?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways. One is we could vacate the board and we could expand the board options and give more representation to the other counties that they represent, as well as break up who appoints. Right now, the mayor appoints all the board. I think Mayor O'Connell has 2 or 3 of them that he's appointed. The others were leftovers. That would be a start. But the board, I think from the state's position, when I talk to members, is the board needs to take decisive action against leadership. And if they don't, then there could be an issue here very soon. We got caption bills ready to handle whatever. The other issue that I've heard about is the SEIU, which is the union of the public service union, which includes linemen and other people. They have come out and they're telling people behind the scenes that you better not let the CEO go. So now you have the union trying to dictate who the leader of the company is going to be for obvious reasons. I guess they feel like they work very well with her for obvious reasons, but doesn't work well for the public as a whole based on the electricity. So now you have a union that's very engaged. I don't like unions. I don't think they should be dictating to Metro, whether it's the administration, whether it's to the board or anybody else, who the CEO should be. That should be up to the board and up to Nashville. But it should also be up to the ratepayers. Look, the people need to have a say. And right now, the people don't have a say in Nashville about who the CEO is because they have no representation. If you look at the co-ops in the state of Tennessee, the co-ops are run by the ratepayers. The board is selected by the ratepayers. I'm not going to say that we might not push to move Nashville Electric to a co-op and move it out of a public government entity that fails to take action, decisive action, and put it into a co-op that is managed and basically owned by the ratepayers.
So this is a new aspect of this story that you're just bringing to the table. Cameron Sexton with us, Speaker of the House of the General Assembly of the state of Tennessee. So the union is now speaking out, and it sounded, the way you just described it, sounded like a veiled threat that you better not replace the CEO of Nashville Electric Service. Is that the way you would describe it?
That's what we're hearing is they came out gently at the beginning saying, we like the CEO, we don't think there's any change. And then roughly behind the scenes, they have increased pressure saying that they would not, that there would be potential actions if they do let the CEO go. But at the end of the day, that's not the union's job. Their job is not to protect the CEO. Their job is not to dictate who runs that company. That's why I don't like unions. They get a little bit bigger than their britches sometimes. But if you had ratepayers involved, the union would not be telling the co-op who was going to run that co-op. And the other thing I do know is Nashville infrastructure needs a lot of upgrades, and there's not a lot of money that Nashville has access to do those upgrades, whether it's water, sewer, electrical, underground electrical. All those things take a lot of money. The sale of NES to a co-op would solve a lot of infrastructure problems and put them on a path to actually take care of the basic need of the people who live here in Davidson County.
Wait, help me out here. I should know the answer to this question, but I do not. I know that because of the ice storm, the General Assembly extended the filing deadline to when? Is it over? Is the filing deadline done?
Filing deadlines. Oh, for bills?
Yeah, for bills.
Yeah, I mean I'm sorry. Yeah, I was trying to.
No.
We have election filing deadlines too.
Oh no, yeah.
So that it was done Tuesday last week, but we made sure.
Are there placeholders
on Monday that we have placeholders to handle anything that we need to do with NES?
Well, I mean and that was you caught the nature of the question there, is because obviously you would need something in place that you could amend, and that's the way that, and for those that don't know, if you don't have the full structure of a bill complete, you can put something in place prior to the deadline, and then you can add amendments and alter the bill significantly. So there's something in place that would give you all the ability, if necessary, to do things that would better help the ratepayers in the event that NES decides to do nothing.
Yes, we could vacate the board. We could go all the way up to forcing a sale to a co-op. We could do anything in between, and that's the thing. I'm sure they're trying to look for some scapegoat over there. That's why it's the entire leadership. Like when you have that type of failure, the only solution is to clean house and bring new people in who are actually qualified to run a utility. And I'm not sure right now, based on those responses, that we have the best person at NES for the state or for Nashville who is the most qualified to run that electrical.
Well, I mean, I've asked this pointed question of a number of leaders, to include Senator Blackburn and others, and I'll ask you, Speaker Sexton, do you believe the time has come that NES needs new leadership?
It definitely needs new leadership, definitely needs a new board, but I also would say it may be time for NES to sell and for Nashville to get out of government-run utilities and let it run to a co-op. Look, the co-ops in our state have run very well. Middle Tennessee Electric has run very well. Murfreesboro Public Utilities sold to a co-op not too long ago. They've been able to take in a lot of money that they could use for other purposes. And since the sale of Murfreesboro, you have not really heard of any issue with their co-op and Middle Tennessee Electric Co-op. But it does put the ratepayers in charge, and the ratepayers are the ones who elect the board from that point forward.
I love it. I love the idea, and I hope that it is under strong consideration for those of you in the General Assembly that we make that move. And it would seem to me that it would be a positive step forward, even for local leadership. I don't know where the mayor is on it. Obviously, I understand that politicians are loath to give up a level of power when they have appointing authority like that, but I think it would be in the best interest of the ratepayers, particularly considering that they've clearly not, they've not been doing their job. I mean, right, the whole canopy stuff, and now everything that they've done in the aftermath of the storm seems to be designed to protect themselves as opposed to be forward-facing toward the ratepayers and toward the customers that have been impacted by the storms. I mean, it was in the pre-planning stages, disastrous. During the storm, disastrous. The linemen were busting it and doing everything that they could, but sadly there weren't enough of them. And then the communication levels in the aftermath have just been awful as well.
Oh, it has been. And then when they get questions from the media and they say, well, we can't onboard this many people that quick because of how complex our system is. And then 2 days later, they're like, oh, well, we just increased by 500. And I'm like, well, which one is it, right?
Right.
Which is it? And then when you find out for people to come in to work during the disaster, they had to spend a minimum of a half a day through training before they could ever get out on the streets to actually do anything. And so the whole thing is a debacle. And so it makes you question who's running it. Are the union members running it, the SEIU, or is the NES running it? But at the end of the day, leadership is leadership, and it's not effective, and it needs to be replaced. I hope that Metro government replaces the board, and a new board will go in and do it. But at this point, it looks like, based on what I'm hearing, is the state's going to have to take action, unfortunately.
Well, and what I heard late last week, Cameron, and I don't know if you're getting some of this in the halls of the General Assembly, but because of their partnership with Finn Partners, which is a public relations firm in the state, and I don't know anybody over there. I'm not pointing fingers at Finn Partners. I'm just saying it appears that their relationship with NES, instead of Finn focusing on customer relations and getting better communications to the customers in the aftermath of the storm, they had Finn focus to the General Assembly and to others within the political system to make sure that they protected themselves. You understand what I mean? They're focusing on crisis management internally as opposed to crisis management externally, which tells me everything I need to know about where the leadership's mindset is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's right. They're all trying to spin the story to pacify the public. And, I've had conversations with member of Metro and saying perception and reality. They want to argue reality, which nobody understands what the reality is that they're arguing. But the perception from the public is the reality because they experienced the failure. They experienced a disaster. They understand it. So that's the perception and that's the reality. And it doesn't seem that NES really cares about that perspective.
So the possibilities, just to put a bow on it and recap, the possibilities are that the General Assembly could move to dissolve the board. The possibility exists that the General Assembly could move to create a co-op that would be owned by the ratepayers as opposed to owned by the city.
Correct, which I think would work well. That worked well in this disaster.
Yeah.
You didn't really hear all these issues from the co-ops, and they actually trimmed the canopies. They actually prepared their staff for disasters. They worked well with TEMA. I mean, look, TEMA was just as frustrated with NES as anybody, and so it solves a lot of problems. But at the end of the day, you want to be able to help people in their moment of crisis. NES failed at all levels of it. And for anyone to argue that they should stay in their positions is diabolical.
No, it's absurd.
And
it's absurd.
They need to change.
No, it's absolutely absurd. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate you being on top of the story. I want to have you back, and we can talk about a lot of things that are going on in the General Assembly, but wanted to focus on this very important story before it got too far away from us, because you know as well as I do that the leadership over there, they're hoping that days and weeks and months pass before any commission report comes out so that the emotions of the moment die down. I don't want to allow that to happen, because it was too disastrous of a week for the people in the Middle Tennessee region to let it go without some changes being made. And I appreciate you spearheading that in the General Assembly.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right,
totally agree.
All right, take care. All right, take care. There's Cameron Sexton, Speaker of the House, joining us for a few good minutes, 22 after the hour. Your thoughts on it? 615-737-9986. They're actually continuing the argument that they spent more money on canopy removal or tree mitigation last year than they did the year before, despite the fact that their very own reports show otherwise. I'll explain that to you in a moment. Take your telephone calls 23 after the hour on Super Talk. Your calls on the way. John, Dave, and another John. Two Johns and a Dave. Right, 1905 writes in and says, forget the halftime show. Let's talk about something even more egregious. I just heard the newscast about the boys that drum on plastic buckets on Broadway being arrested. Was that our newscast? I missed it if that was the case.
Yeah, and I'm ironically, I'm going to have that very story here in just a moment.
Okay.
There's more to the story than just banging on buckets.
Okay. All right. Well, I look forward to the rest of that story. In 1905, I hope you listen up. Perhaps you can get a little bit more of the story, because 1905 says they've been down there entertaining people on the sidewalk for nearly a decade. Why is Metro now harassing them? Nashville moving even further away from the old charm and magic of Broadway for big corporate bars. Shameful. Well, I mean, that's been a long time making. So we'll get some of the backstory on that coming up in just a couple of minutes on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dave is next out of Columbia. Dave, what's up?
Hey, man. What? Matt, you feeling better?
I do feel a little bit better, Dave. Drugs help. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. Well, I originally called in to talk about Bad Bunny, but I can talk about NES. But, I lived up in Nashville, I guess, about 23 years ago. Man, back then, I mean, if you had trees next to power lines, they'd come along every year and they'd hurt your feelings.
Yep.
They'd butcher your tree like nobody's business. So I don't know what happened over there, but I was listening to Cameron Sexton there, and I think the state needs to absolutely force them to go to a co-op or just wipe out that board and replace it, because my God. And then, now we're talking about guys beating on a bucket. We're going to focus on guys beating on a bucket, but we got everything going with NES. But, hey, Bad Bunny, just real quick on that. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that, look, the NFL's got us wrapped around their finger. Everybody's watching and everything. Like, why in the world did they pick what they picked when we've got all this immigration stuff? If you don't think there's an agenda there, I think you might be mistaken. I didn't know what a Bad Bunny was. I thought it might be a stripper with a bad attitude. I was disappointed.
Well, Bad Bunny is, it's my understanding, one of the most popular performers across the world.
Imagine my disappointment. I don't even speak Spanish.
Well, I mean, I don't either. So I don't know. I guess maybe this is the way that, other folks feel when they go watch a Taylor Swift show. I don't know. I didn't watch any of it. So, but I haven't paid attention to halftime shows in a long time. So,
but I think there's an agenda there.
What do you think it is, Dave?
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny that, now I'm an old dude, right? I want to see ZZ Top up there or somebody like that, or Straight, or, I get it, but they want to appeal to a younger audience. Okay, that's fine. I don't get it because people don't watch anyway. But in the current climate with immigration, going the route they did, I think is a very clear people call it a middle finger. I don't know if I call it a middle finger, but it's pretty clear that they had an agenda that they were following. And I don't think it was
Well, I don't even know. I don't even know if it was a border agenda. I mean, and I'm not here to defend the NFL. They don't need me to defend them. They've made such horrific mistakes over the last 6-8 years, and yet still they're the most popular sport in the United States of America. But here's the thing. They're trying to expand their brand to South America. And so I think that's a lot of it. They're trying to gain popularity down there, and they feel like they can gain eyeballs with Bad Bunny. That's a positive spin on it.
We'll get Shakira up there, somebody like that.
Well, they had.
I watch her shake it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about it. Once again, there's not. I don't. There is almost. I mean, I'm not saying I put a big. And thank you, John, for the call. I rather Dave for the call. I got to run. I'm not suggesting it's not a big boycott point with me. I don't necessarily understand people anticipating the NFL Super Bowl halftime show. I just don't understand it. It's even if I'm paying attention, I'm not paying attention. I'm talking to people in my house. I'm going to the bathroom or whatever. I didn't watch any of it, though. 32 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 41 minutes after the hour. I refuse to be dragged back. Well, no, I don't refuse. I'm being dragged back into this conversation about the halftime show. I don't want that. I don't want the conversation in my life, but I'm being dragged back in because now people, if they replaced the announcers with two Spanish-speaking men, would it not be right for us in America to complain about that?
That's a channel.
I mean, yeah, there are Spanish-speaking announcers for the Super Bowl, number one.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That's an actual thing. Number two, the suggestion is that we have some sort of right to understand the lyrics that Bad Bunny is singing, and I don't make those decisions. I'm not the person that makes the decision as to who does the halftime show, but I am a consumer that can decide to turn my back on it and to go somewhere else and watch something else, which is what I did. We don't have a right to demand that certain acts are on the halftime show. We can just turn it off or recognize that maybe it's not for us. It's not geared for us. Secondarily, I think it's a little foolish, no offense to those arguing it, I think it's a little foolish arguing that descriptions of the game in a different language is the same thing as somebody singing in a different language. I don't.
Also, part of the halftime show is in English.
Was it?
Yeah, the Lady Gaga portion.
Well, there you go. A little something for the amigos in the good old U.S. of A. Once again, I have a dip. I mean, this just, it feels almost performative now. It's been going on for a while. And oh, by the way, I saw portions of last year's halftime show, and I couldn't understand a damn thing Kendrick Lamar was saying. How about that?
Great halftime show.
And was he speaking English, Jackson?
He was.
Well, I couldn't understand a damn thing he was saying. How about that? So, Jay, speaking of English, I caught portions of the news story, and then I missed. So
yeah.
These young men, the bucket bangers, have been charged with felonies?
Well, there's one young man, 19-year-old young man. Apparently, they had been warned about blocking the sidewalk downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Undemembering, doing the banging on the plastic buckets. And one of them was got a little unruly with a police officer and started fighting with the cop, and the cop arrested him and charged him with a felony.
Okay, well, that changes everything.
Yeah. So, as I said earlier, a little more to the story.
Right.
He got belligerent and got out of control, and he was arrested.
That I don't know what. I maybe open it up to the audience. I've never cared for the bucket bangers. I mean, I don't think that it's as hard as some people think it is to take a stick and bang on a bucket and make it sound decent sitting in front of an alleyway. Secondarily, I just feel a little put upon when they're in the middle of the street or the middle of the sidewalk and then I have to walk around. I'm not trying to be an octogenarian here. I'm not trying to be that old guy that, get off of my lawn. But, I feel like maybe there's something better you can do with your time. The bucket bangers in New Orleans started becoming bucket thievers in New Orleans. I'm not saying that's what's happening here. I'm not up for it. John is next. Hey, John, how are you?
Oh, Captain, my captain, how are you today?
What's happening, brother?
Well, I tell you, I didn't watch because I left the sports bar about 4 minutes before halftime even started. But now I'm seeing replays. Now, was those bamboo stalks, or is that tobacco that they were cutting down?
Sugarcane.
While he's going through this maze, or what was it?
It was supposed to be sugarcane.
So when did sugarcane start growing footballs out of them? Because next thing I know, he's bringing a football around, holding it like a baby, like he just had a newborn baby. But anyway, enough about that. Real quick, I want to get back to the Savannah Guthrie's mother. Now, did we not hear this the first 2 days when they introduced this crime that she's probably got about 24 hours for her next round of medicine? Do y'all remember that?
Yes, vaguely. I will admit. Okay. I will admit to you, John. I'll have to defer to you on some of the details because I've not been following the story that closely.
Yeah, I mean, for the first 2 days, you're like, well, we're so worried about she's probably got no more than 24 hours before she needs her medicine and pass out and all that. Buddy, it's going on a week now. It's already surpassed a week. And I'll let y'all debate that.
Well, I think, well, John, I will say this to you before you go. I think the idea, okay. I mean, as far as I can understand it, the idea is if the ransom was as sophisticated as they believe that it is, then the hostage takers, the kidnappers, would have taken her medicine with her so as to keep her alive. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I would assume that that's the suggestion that they did.
Hey, real quick, that's a great theory because they're still trying to figure out why did they stay in the home almost 40 minutes? I mean, what were they looking for? Was the mission just to kidnap her? Don't think so, because they're still baffled on why they were in there 30 to 40 minutes. So was it to get all of her medicine? Yeah, 50-50, I'll give it. But anyway, no, that's a good theory. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, John. This has become a very intriguing, and look, I understand that some people are pushing away from it because, oh, well, this person's getting special treatment because this person is a celebrity and her mother is the mother of a celebrity. That's the only reason that people are covering the story. Well, the celebrity nature of the story is inherent in the story, right? Like, the idea is that the Savannah Guthrie's mother would never have been kidnapped but for her celebrity status because it was the celebrity status that would lead them to get the Bitcoin or the ransom that they claim to want. It's reaching a crescendo today because, I mean, to my understanding, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, there's been no communication since that initial note. The Guthrie family has stepped out and attempted to communicate with people on these kidnappers on several occasions. Savannah Guthrie they did another video over the weekend begging them to communicate with them, saying that, look, we want our mother back. We desperately want our mother, and we will pay. I mean, they just out and they said, we will pay. But what they're begging for is proof of life, right? The suggestion being we need to make sure that you're not lying to us. We need to make sure that she's still alive and you still have her. But they're not getting any sort of feedback from the kidnappers. The kidnappers sent the initial thing and said, you've got until today, Monday, February 9th, to do something. And if you don't, then, we'll do what we've got to do. So who knows what will happen there. It's very much a plot of a movie. And not necessarily a very believable one. That's just how insane it is. Greg is next up, wants to talk about Nashville Electric. Hey, Greg, good afternoon. Welcome.
Well, yes, good afternoon. I was actually wanting to touch on a topic that Mr. Sexton had mentioned at kind of towards the end. And he talked about all the utilities being needed to be upgraded and things like that. And I'm not arguing that point. And I'm not taking up for any utilities other than, if I remember correctly, there were, and this is 10 or 15 years ago, Metro Water had a substantial rainy day cash cow thing for that specific purpose, and Metro Nashville decided they needed that money more than the utility company, and so they took it and built a convention center. I don't know what they did with it, and then it was about 2 years after that a large diameter water line burst in the middle of Broad Street and took out half the street. Kind of karma there. So, I don't know, again, did something like that happen with Nashville Electric? I don't know. I'm not following Nashville Electric. But sometimes there's other things in the background going on, and people don't really realize what's happening. Again, I'm not taking up for any utility company at all. I know that in my electric service company, when they trim trees, they trim a 40-foot swath, 20 foot on each side of the power line. They come through my property all the time, and that's what they get.
Well, look,
foot.
I mean, my big thing was, and I said it repeatedly last week, and I won't till this ground too deeply, but, Greg, it's one thing to decide as a company that you're going to keep the trees, right? And many people in many parts of the Nashville Electric Service footprint were happy about that during the good times. I mean, I heard from folks over in Belmead and some other places, some of the ritzier neighborhoods, that they wanted their canopies, they wanted their trees, and they were fine with it. And they were fine with the risk. Well, they're fine with the risk because most of those people have an amount of money where they're able to afford at least a generator, if not a whole home generator, or they're afford to get out and go somewhere else where there's power when the power goes out. The point is that if you do that and if you make those decisions on the front end, that's one thing. But you have to be upfront with your customer base about it, and you have to understand the risks that come with it. And what frustrated so many people is that not only had they worked hard over the last 2 or 3 or 4 years to, quote, protect the canopy, and they weren't spending nearly the amount of money in tree trimming that they had been, they didn't do anything about it when the storm was coming. So you would think that someone in the boardroom somewhere would have raised their hand and said, hey, guys, you know how we've been working on beautification and naturalization and letting the trees be as they're going to be over the last several years? Well, hey, I think the chickens are about to come home to roost. Maybe we need to get some more linemen on the job. Maybe we need to get some more linemen up to speed because I think we're going to have a significant event here if we get that ice. You know what I mean?
Oh, and I'm not going to, again, I'm not disagreeing with that, and I'm sure not taking up for the electric company. But, at the same time, weather predictions are, well, they're weather predictions, and they're just a guesstimate like anything else. I mean, it's somewhat educated guess or whatever, but it's still a gamble on what it's really going to do, and how much time when you've left that amount of canopy out there. Even if they started the minute they started hearing about something like that, could you have really made a difference?
Well, and my point was not necessarily to make a difference on getting the trees trimmed, but recognizing that because you did not trim the trees, you were going to have far more branches down, you were going to have far more lines down, and you needed to stage the guys to prepare for that. Greg, it's a great point. Thank you for making it. I appreciate you. It's 53 after the hour. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN.